June has arrived and the kids are back from school, so they're going to be around all summer. Bond markets yields are up, which is a little bit concerning for global financial markets. We're not the only ones. The job reports also came in higher than expected. CPI and PPI are running hotter than expected. That's the measurement of inflation. So we do have some inflation that's back. The Middle East conflict continues. We have the bottleneck with the Strait of Hormuz, and that is putting some pressure on global markets, and we're seeing some supply chain issues. So there's a lot of stuff going on right now. And the reason I bring all that up is because it doesn't directly translate to our little Sacramento real estate market. However, all of those things do impact lending, they impact mortgage rates, and they impact buyers and sellers' decisions on a day-to-day basis about what they're going to do with their finances. The reason that I bring all of these things up is because it is putting pressure on mortgage rates, and we're seeing those mortgage rates holding. They're not dropping. We're actually seeing them, they're ticking up a little bit. They'll be down for a week and then they're right back up. So it is something to watch out for. The other issue with that is that it's impacting our volume. So I'll get into it a little bit later, but our market is also seeing very low inventory. And you're not the only one. If you've had a tough time finding a good house that you really want to engage with, it's happening everywhere. We have low inventory, therefore we have low sales volume. So all of these are challenges, and it's really just locking up our real estate market. That being said, again, we might see some relief once the Iran conflict or the Middle East conflict is resolved. We start to get some shipping moving and maybe see oil prices come down a little bit. That could help with a lot of other things. So basically, we're all just waiting here, twiddling our thumbs and hoping that some things get resolved. So in the meantime, I do have a little story to tell. I was not in love with my house when I bought it, but it made sense on paper. It had a lot of those things that I know buyers always want, right? It's a cul-de-sac lot. It's a single story. It has a 3-car garage. It's got a huge backyard, but I didn't love the house. So what I did was I took the house and I made it into something that I love. And at this point, after the work that I've done, the renovations, all the improvements, I absolutely love my house. So my advice to you, if you're on the buying side, is maybe readjust and look for a home that you could turn into something that you love. Buy for those great features, buy for its quality on paper, and then take the home and turn it into something you love. That would be my only advice for you. That being said, let's get into all the data for the month of May. We have all the stats back. So the number of homes for sale increased by 9.8% in May. That's just following our seasonal pattern, increasing listing inventory after spring, during spring. That is 6.2% lower than last year. So as I said, inventory is down. Pendings rose by 5.7% over April. Typical move for May. That is actually still 11.6% better than a year ago in 2025. In spite of the stubborn mortgage rates in the higher sixes, many buyers are still making the decision to get pre-qualified, get their finances in order, and get out and shop for homes. Home sales, however, dropped 3.4%. And I think that was obviously those sales numbers usually lag by 30 days. I think that was just coming off of the initial shock of the Middle East conflict, everything happening there. Now we're seeing the result of that. And I expect that our June numbers will be a little bit better since we have had that strong pending activity. So 30 days from now, we'll be in better shape. Days on market in the Tri-County area improved by 5.6%. So homes went from 36 to 34 days on average to sell in the Tri-County area. Not bad at all. I remember when we used to sign 12-month listing contracts and our listings would be on the market for months. So 34 days, still great. List price to sold price ratio, it held at 99% of list price. So great news there. That shows, a lot of buyers and sellers are being reasonable about what homes are worth in the current market. All that being said, homes are still taking 1 day longer to sell than they were 12 months ago. So again, that's one more little piece of data that I keep saying, I think we're having a repeat of last year. So we're right in line. Tri-County area, the median sold price of single family homes, drumroll, increased by 1.7% in May. It went from 600 to 610, and that is actually a $10,000 improvement over the same time a year ago. So I know we've been pretty flat year over year, but that's a little bit of a bump. So that is some good news. I'm curious to see if that appreciation trend continues throughout summer, or if that was just a little one month bump and maybe we're down by 10,000 next month. We'll just have to wait and see. Remember, there are short-term monthly trends, and then we also have to look at the yearly trend, what's happening on a macro level. So the average sold price for the month of May, Tri-County, also rose by 3.4% month over month. So both of those were in alignment on increases. Sometimes they don't. Month of inventory increased from 2.1 to 2.4 months. Not a huge change. 2.4 is still kind of on that on the seller's side of a market, but that's good news for all the buyers out there. There's a little bit more inventory to choose from. However, that being said, we need to be at least over 4 months to really get into a true buyer's market where buyers can come in, really make competitive offers, get huge incentives, and we're just not there yet. And I say yet, I don't know if we ever will be, to be honest. I think we're going to have, like I've said, I think we're going to have a deadlocked market. I think these are the numbers that we're probably going to continue to see at least for the foreseeable future, probably into next year, maybe into 2028. We'll see. That now I'm getting a little far out, so I don't want to make too many predictions. Overall, I'd say late May, early June, we're seeing a little increase in overall activity. That's a positive sign for the Sacramento real estate market. Not quite where I would have liked to see for spring, but still not bad. Moving on to Placer County. Residential homes for sale increased 8.3% for May. That is 11% less than last year. So again, we're having the inventory issues. The number of pended homes jumped 10.3% from April to May. That's a pretty great jump. That's a lot of activity. Like I said, I think initially people were concerned about the Middle East conflict. We got 30 days into that, 45 days into that, and things started to loosen up a little bit and people are moving. So glad to see that activity. That is a little bit better pending activity than a year ago in 2025, but that's also right when we had all the tariff situation going on and people were concerned about that too. So both issues really put the brakes on the market in 2025 spring and 2026 spring. So number of sold homes increased 9.9% in Placer County. That's strong buyer activity from April translates to better sales activity in May. Number of homes sold is also 3.9% higher for May than it was a year ago. So a little bit of good news there. Days on market improved 41 down to 34 days. That's over 20% improvement in Placer County. That is great news. So 34 days on the market, not bad at all. And the one thing I was curious about, so the list price to sold price ratio fell in Placer County. So it actually went from 99 down to 98%. So that's basically sellers are getting 98% on average of what they're trying to get of their asking price for their home. So I was curious, is that sellers that are being overly optimistic for the market and they started listing their homes too high again? Or is that buyers just being able to negotiate better deals right now and hitting those motivated sellers? And it's actually the latter. The average list price did not go up for the month. So that indicates that the buyers are actually getting a little bit better deal on the properties that they're negotiating on. So not as great news for sellers, good news for buyers, only a 1% change, not the end of the world. In Placer County, the median sold price for single family homes rose by 2.1%. So it went from $675,000 up to $689,000. That's also a 3.6% improvement over this time last year. So again, month over month, good change, good year over year. But I also want to see the longer term yearly trend to see, is that just 1 month or what are we doing? Inventory levels in Placer County trimmed down by a modest 4.4%, not a huge change. They went from 2.3 months to 2.2 months. Interestingly though, that is about 15% lower months of inventory than we saw this time last year. So we're still continuing that trend of limited inventory, and it's frustrating. It's frustrating. And as I said, if you find it hard to find the right home, you're not the only one. It's a market issue. And that's why I encourage folks, maybe look for the home that's great on paper and fix the other things and make it a home you love. Make it the right home for you. So I'd say in summary, May is looking pretty strong. We saw some good numbers in spite of the Iran war and all the stuff going on in the Middle East, the Strait being shut down. So good news overall. I'm not overly optimistic, but also, not bad news. So we'll just have to wait and see how things play out with our financial markets. If we get a little bit of relief, if rates come down, that's really going to help bring some volume and some activity back to the market. So if you need a PDF or you need a report or you want to do a sit down, talk about your home, your zip code, your neighborhood, buying or selling, just reach out to me. I'd be glad to set that up. And I look forward to sharing more information with you next month. So please like, subscribe, and reach out anytime.